Reading from the Book of Wisdom. There is no God beside you who have the care of all, that need show you have not unjustly condemned. For your might is the source of justice. Your mastery over all things makes you lenient to all. For you show your might when the perfection of your power is disbelieved. And in those who know you, you rebuke temerity. But though you are a master of might, you judge with clemency. And with much lenience you govern us, for power, whenever you will, attends you. And you taught your people by these deeds that those who are just must be kind. And you gave your children good ground for hope, that you would permit repentance for their sins. The word of the Lord.
Lord, you are good and forgiving. Lord, you are good and forgiving. You, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abiding in kindness to all who call upon you. Hearken, O Lord, to my prayer, and attend to the sound of my pleading. Lord, you are good and forgiving. All the nations you have made shall come and worship you, O Lord, and glorify your name. For you are great, and you do wondrous deeds. You alone are God. Lord, you are good and forgiving. You, O Lord, are good, God, merciful and gradient, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and fidelity. Turn toward me and have pity on me. Give your strength to your servant. Lord, you are good and forgiving.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, the Spirit comes to the aid of our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. But the Spirit himself intercedes with inexpressible groanings. And the one who searches hearts knows what is the intention of the Spirit, because he intercedes for the holy ones, according to God's will. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus proposed another parable to the crowds, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a man who sowed good seed in his field. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds all through the wheat and then went off. When the crop grew and bore fruit, the weeds appeared as well. The slaves of the householder came to him and said, 'Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?' He answered, 'An enemy has done this.' His slaves said to him, 'Do you want us to go and pull them up?' He replied, 'No, if you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. And then at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barn.'" The Gospel of the Lord. First, want to welcome those of you who are visiting with us. I imagine in July here on Tybee, there's a decent amount of visitors. I'm also visiting here. I'm from the cathedral in Savannah, covering for Father Brannon this evening. So today, Jesus continues with the sort of agricultural parables. We had the sower and the seed last week, and so now we have the wheat and the weeds. I think interesting, there's some spiritual insights here for our own sort of prayer life that I think are somewhat important. I think one thing that's often missed when I do kind of spiritual direction or see people in the spiritual life, one thing that's often missed is that that the enemy does exist. What I mean by that is that there is a third party here. And often we kind of look at the idea that it's just me and God, so all of my failures are my own and not God's. Sorry, this microphone is very hot. So we look at it and we say, well, it's me and God, so every failure is my own. And I think we miss that Satan is very much a deceiver, that he likes to go unnoticed. And so he tricks us into the idea that it's me and God, and so when I fail, it's mine alone. But there is a third party, right? That the devil is trying to tempt us. That it doesn't mean like there's a demonic presence at every moment in our life, but he's trying to move us in a certain direction. And so this parable makes clear that there is an enemy who is active, that there's a battle at play here when we look at our world and even our own personal spiritual life. And so I think it can help us to have a certain compassion on ourselves. That yes, I'm not removing the culpability of sin from us, but saying that I am engaged in this battle, that it's not merely my own ineptitude that has led to my sin. Right? Just like when we look back at Adam and Eve, yes, it is still Adam's fault, but obviously Satan has a hand in that. And I think that's true also for us, that there's an enemy who is seeking after our heart. And then he went off. Right? So he disappears, and then we think something is just wrong with the wheat, rather than the fact that Jesus acknowledges immediately an enemy has done this. The other is it happens when everyone is asleep. And so again, there's a sort of instruction of a vigilance. In our own spiritual life, how do we make sure that we do not fall asleep? How do we make sure that we have a certain vigilance for our own spiritual life? What are the things that I'm taking in and hearing and listening to and looking at? What is going on in my own heart? Do I have a vigilance, or does the enemy come when I've fallen asleep, when I've become lackadaisical, when I've kind of, well, I started praying a little bit, but I've slowed down now, or I started doing this. It's there where the enemy, again, will strike us in our sleepiness. The other is that rooting out evil is quite difficult. Just as Jesus says, well, you can't pull up the wheat, or you can't pull out the weeds without maybe pulling up some of the wheat. In the same way for us, I've seen sometimes when someone has a big conversion and they want to change everything, they say, okay, well, now the past is totally gone. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm a new person. And then when they have similar struggles the next day, they're confused. It's like, wait, I thought everything would change. And we try to kind of get rid of ourselves, or we try to just mask the problem. If I really try hard enough, I can get rid of this thing, not knowing there's a depth, especially to sin that has a certain rootedness in our heart. And so pulling up those roots is a difficult task. If any of you have gotten serious about a particular vice in your own life and realize this is harder than just making a decision, then you know that there's a certain rootedness in these weeds. And so it's a reminder to us that I can't just pull up all of these weeds as simply as that, but I have to get to the roots. And so it means in our own prayer life, inviting Christ to go deeper into my own woundedness, maybe going deeper into how these things affect my heart and what is my desire, what is my intention doing these actions rather than trying to stop the particular action. But I think we're remiss if our takeaway from really this gospel and all the readings is simply that we must be vigilant, that we must recognize the work of the enemy, that we must root out evil, because it's all about the sower. In fact, The other readings from the first reading from wisdom is drawing out the fact that God is lenient, that God is merciful. And so the point is the sower. And I think in these parables, even last week we had the sower and the seeds, and it's very easy to get caught up in what soil am I, right? Am I the rocky soil? Am I the fertile soil? But we miss the goodness of the sower. Who is this sower? That this is his field, that he says that he sows good seed, right? That he's saying that we are good, that he has created us good, that by casting seed, there's this kind of principle of life within us, that there's a certain purpose that moves towards growth and fruitfulness and life, right? That it's seeking to expand and grow. The expansion of this gospel is talking about the yeast that leavens the dough and the mustard seed, that they grow into this much bigger tree. The idea is that God has placed within us something imperceptible that grows and gives life. That it shows, again, that he's very merciful, that even when he recognizes the weeds, he waits. He has a certain patience, that God knows the certain timing, that he allows us to, if you will, he permits sin and evil in our lives with the idea that he can bring about redemption from it. And so he has this great patience for us, that he doesn't just immediately cast out any wrongdoing as soon as he sees it, but permits it so it doesn't root up the weeds. And so our attention, again, should go towards who is this benevolent sower who wants me to be in his barn with him. This is the other profound thing, that obviously this master has great attention and care for this field. Why is he talking constantly with the farmers about this particular field? And again, he uses he says, I want it in my barn. And so there's this presumption that it is with him at the end of time. And so he has this love for the wheat. Again, we want to move in prayer our attention from how we feel or what we want to what is God like? What are the characteristics of God? Not just that I hear in Scripture, but how does he reveal himself to me? And what is he like? How does he speak to me? How does he care for me? How does the sower deal and cultivate the earth and grow the plants that he has sown? And so I think it's also beautiful that the weeds do not conquer the wheat, that he's not worried about the weeds taking over. There's this idea that, yes, God is giving us a particular warning about the activity of Satan, but he is there each day looking at the field, that he's there in there with us, that he's walking with us, that he is assisting us. And so he recognizes that the weeds will not ultimately conquer the wheat because it has that force of life behind them in the seed. And so I think for us, again, moving our attention to, in these parables, I think they're beautiful to pray with, and we can find profound insight. Yes, they give us certain instruction on recognizing that Satan is present and working against me, that I need to be vigilant, that rooting out evil is difficult, but we have a master who cares for his field, who seeks to root out evil within our own hearts, who is vigilant for us, who always wins out over the enemy. And so in our prayer life, we continue to look and say, who is this sower who loves so deeply, who cares so deeply for me, who wants me to be with him forever in his barn, and allowing that to be our motivation for contending with sin in our world.